Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Hooked on Sports here on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasting streaming services. My name is John Flynn, and thank you so very much for listening to the podcast or watching the podcast, whether it's on YouTube or listening it to your favorite podcasting streaming platform. Thank you for listening once again, and look, we are going to preview week 5 of the NFL season today. We have 14 games on the schedule. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, and the Green Bay Packers all on the bye this week. But that doesn't let us go of having some delicious games here on the schedule coming up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going first of all present my power rankings for through the first quarter of the season so far, and I compiled this list. I just posted it on Instagram uh as of as of 12:45 this afternoon, but so you can see to the right the standings. You got the I think the Bills are the best team in the NFL. I think bar none. I was debating between the Lions and the Eagles for 2 and 3, but I just think Philadelphia has been they've had an inconsistent pass game because they ranked 31st in the NFL in passing yards per game, and and a lot of NFC teams on the top here, lot to be impressed about for throughout these things. So disappointed, obviously, in Baltimore, Houston, the Cardinals, all those teams I had making the playoffs, but right now they're not playing up to the level I think they're capable of playing, and that's that. So this is actually one of 4 times I can do this because everybody's played the same amount of games because the bye week start today. So that's why I posted my power rankings before I unveiled my spreads for the week. So three major games, nonetheless, to discuss. We got the Denver Broncos and the Philadelphia Eagles meeting up, uh, meeting up on Sunday, and I think this is going to be a tremendous football game. These two teams are remarkably well coached. That the Broncos could have easily been 4-0, but they were on the wrong side of game-winning field goals at the end of games. But I really want to know how good this Philadelphia Eagles offense is, and I think you have to look at the Eagles offensive line, which has rightfully so been an elite group over the last 10-15 years under Jeff Stoutland. So, but they were pretty banged up on the offensive line. That Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, but both suffered injuries during the preseason, and they're slowly making their way back. And Lane Johnson, the future Hall of Fame right tackle, has not been up to speed as well. I guess he's been battling injuries. It looks like he's going to be able to go for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I definitely think that's a good sign there because I was a little worried about that and why I thought this Eagles Broncos game was a difficult one for me to handicap because of that. And when it comes to the offensive line, they're not able to run the ball the way they did last year. And I think the perspective is that last year Saquon Barkley averaged 3.8 yards before contact last year, which ranked first in the NFL. And this season, it's just 1.7 yards before contact, making it um making it 38th in the NFL in that statistic. So of course there are things to monitor for the Broncos and the Philadelphia Eagles coming up here. So then when it comes to the Broncos defense, and so the Broncos defense is superb. They're the number two scoring defense. They rank ninth against the pass and 11th against the run, and it's definitely going to be a challenge for this passing attack to get going, because you got AJ Brown who is there are talks with the Eagles and seeing if the Eagles are going to trade AJ Brown, but I just don't think that's the case, because I think AJ Brown's production took a dip of last year with the addition of Saquon Barkley and them just running the ball down everyone's throats, but. But it's going to be a challenge nonetheless, as AJ Brown is going to be matched up against Patrick Surtain, who might be the best corner in the game. So that's a big test for the Eagles offensively. And I also think that defensively, they haven't been as dominant as as they were last year. Now, it didn't help that they lost key stalwarts on that front four, like Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, among others, who left with free agency. So the Eagles defense ranks 15th in scoring, 17th in passing, and 21st in rushing. So it's gonna be tough. Of this is maybe can the Eagles try and turn it around, because they have the Broncos, they have the Giants twice, and they have a Vikings offense. So that was shut down for 3 quarters against the Steelers in Dublin last week. So that's a monster test over there. So I can't wait for that game. I think it's gonna be superb. My personal favorite game of the week is going to be the game in Seattle between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks, and I think it's going to be a tremendous atmosphere. I think it's going to be a great environment, because with Seattle and the Seattle sports fan, because you got the Seahawks playing at 1 p.m. Pacific, and then right across the street, the Mariners are going to host Game 2 of the division series against either the Tigers or the Guardians, whoever wins their game this afternoon in Cleveland. So it's gonna be a wall to wall sports Sunday in Seattle, starting with the Seahawks, and then of course the Mariners. And I think we're going to find out a lot about these two teams, who are excellent run defenses, have excellent run defenses, dynamic passing attacks. So we're going to find out a lot about these two teams by the end of the day Sunday. And as far as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm a little concerned, because the injuries are piling up, that their safety room is banged up with injuries. Their offensive line is currently not at its peak form, because they have a couple of guys hurt, and Tristan Wirfs just came back from an injury last week. And Baker Mayfield did not practice on Wednesday due to injuries to his knee and his biceps. So it is going to be a challenge for the Eagle for the Buccaneers to do that. So I think when we look at look at this, Seattle has not faced an elite offense yet this year, and as great as they've been defensively, they're still. Well, we're gonna find out about that. So the Seattle so far against rather subpar competition so far, that they've ranked fourth in rushing yards allowed per attempt, seventh in passing yards per attempt, and second in opponents' points per game. And we're gonna have to monitor the keys for some key players on that defense, like Demarcus Lawrence, Julian Love, and Devon Witherspoon. Those cats did not participate in practice on Wednesday. So the key for Seattle against the Bucks defense, that has a defensive line patrolled by Vita Vea, who is one of the best stuffers in the NFL. So the Bucks defense is ranked second in rushing yards allowed per attempt. And then in the terms of the passing attack, there may be some there might be more openings there as they rank 11th and with 187 pass yards per game allowed. So the Seahawks are going to have to find a way to get creative in calling running plays for Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet because I think Seattle on Sunday is going to go as far as the running attack takes them. So we're looking at that for Seattle, and then going back to Tampa, I think the key here is Emeka Egbuka being the lead receiver for the Bucks, which I think is a pretty encouraging development here. And Emeka Egbuka was a great pick when it was made. I love the pick from Ohio State with the 19th pick, and right now he is the leader in the clubhouse for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I think if Witherspoon is not able to go, I think Ibuka could be able to make an impact in this game of from the wide receiver position. So Tampa banged up with injuries, but they have a winning culture. They have a winning DNA. Jason Licht is terrific. Todd Bowles coaching up this defense and Josh and what is it? Josh Grizzard, coaching up that offense, and it's been pretty decent for the vast majority of the season. So a big game and a good quiz on what these two teams have done so far. Looking forward to that. And then the last game I wanted to discuss. Well, we had this. We talked about the Bucks and the Seahawks. I really want to see what transpires between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think for the Jacksonville Jaguars, have impressed me so far this season. They are 3-1 on the season, tied to first place in the AFC South with the Colts. But I think we're gonna find out who the real Jaguars are. As they take on the Kansas City Chiefs, and look, I picked Kansas City to win the division. I think that not having Xavier Worthy and Rasheed Rice has played a major role in some of the Chiefs' struggles offensively. But last week they got Xavier Worthy back, and it led to arguably Patrick Mahomes' best individual regular season performance in a couple of years. He threw for 270 yards and 4 touchdowns in the victory over the Baltimore Ravens, who, again, the Ravens are so decimated with injuries. Um, with that, and it's going to be a task for Kansas City because Jacksonville has led the league with 13 turnovers. That they've gotten at least 3 turnovers in each of their first four games so far. So Liam Cohen has done a very good job so far. Anthony Campanelli has been superb with this defense so far. But I think it should be should make sense of what the Jaguar schedule has been. So the fourth quarter they faced Bryce Young. They faced Joe Burrow, who got hurt, and Jake Browning. C.J. Stroud with a terrible offensive line, and Brock Purdy, who was compromised with a toe injury in their 4 games. Now it's Patrick Mahomes against that Jaguars defense. So then where do I think that the Jaguars need to win the game? They need that. I think Jacksonville and the thing we talk about Spagnuolo so much is that Spagnuolo really focuses in on what the other team's biggest strengths are. That's what they did with Philadelphia twice. They did that with Baltimore on Sunday. So I think what the Jaguars are gonna be faced with is a defense that's gonna put more resources in on slowing down the rushing attack led by Travis Etienne, who is having a resurgent type of season so far. So this basically means that I think the game is gonna be reliant on the right arm of Trevor Lawrence, and this is kind of a big game for Trevor Lawrence because the last time we've seen Trevor Lawrence really in a primetime situation. So it was a Monday night game of a couple of years ago. The Jaguars came in with the best record in the AFC, the one seed in the AFC, and then Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and it's been downhill from there. Now this is an opportunity for Trevor Lawrence to really recapture himself with respect amongst the fan base, and good happily for Trevor Lawrence, he has I think an excellent supporting cast now. The offensive line has actually been outstanding. Because the Jaguars have the fourth ranked rush offense, and it's led, of course, by Travis Etienne, and then you think about Travis Hunter and Brenton Strange. So that's really where you really need to lean on in the passing attack. And then as for the Kansas City Chiefs, they need to make sure they get Travis Kelce involved. I think so they need to be able to run the football with Isaiah Pacheco. He had 5 yards per carry and a receiving touchdown in the victory on Sunday against Baltimore. So I think if this is where the Chiefs really start to get things going here. I think you look at that and try and let Xavier Worthy have the type of high ceiling impact he's shown when he is a big part of the passing offense. So this is going to be an excellent slate of games. It's gonna be fun on Sunday, and then Monday. So I think with that in mind, I'm going to start to we're going to look at the week 5 NFL picks for this upcoming week. So last week I went 10-5-1 straight up and 43-20-1 overall. And last week I was 6-10 against the spread. Now 26-38 overall on the season. So we want to get the ship right headed in the right direction here. So to the right here are the spreads that I'll be playing with. I'll post the graphic with my spread picks in a little bit. So we're gonna start with the game tonight between the Rams and the 49ers. The Rams are favored by 8.5 points, and boy, this is a tricky one to pick because of how banged up the 49ers are with injuries. That no Brock Purdy, no Ricky Pearsall, no Jawan Jennings, no George Kittle, obviously. So it's going to be Mr. Mac Jones and Christian McCaffrey ahead in the offense. And look, the Rams have matchups in this game. Byron Young is leading the way. He was just named the defensive rookie of the month for the month of September. He had 5 sacks in the month, led by a superb up front front four. So that constantly gets to the quarterback. But it's a divisional game. It's a short week. The Rams are coming off a gritty victory against the Colts, while the Niners are lost to the Jaguars. Because their quarterback was banged up for most of it. But I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams to win the game, but I have the 49ers with the points. I have this as a 27-22 victory. You give me the Rams to win, but the Niners to cover. Now on to the Sunday games, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. The Minnesota Vikings and the Cleveland Browns. The Vikings are favored by 4.5 points, And I'm gonna be I'm couldn't circle the Vikings fast enough on this one. I think this is gonna be that Dylan Gabriel making his first NFL start going up against a Brian Flores defense. I just don't think is a fair fight. I think the Vikings also have the advantage of already having not having to worry about being jet lagged for this one because um they were in Ireland last week. Now they're going to be at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this week, giving the Vikings to win 27-10 over the Browns. Now the Houston Texans are 1.5 point favorites on the road in Baltimore against the Ravens. I can't stress enough how much I like the Houston Texans to win this game. And the Ravens defense has just been atrocious. They've and then they've got word that Nandi Montebuque is going to be out for the season with an injury. So as bad as the Texans offensive line has been, I think they'll catch a break with this one. And also Lamar Jackson not being able is dinged up as well. He might not be able to go for another week or two, and then the team's bye week is coming up in 2 weeks. So give me the Texans to win this game by a score of 23-20 over the Ravens. The Miami Dolphins are on the road in Carolina, favored by 1.5 points, and I'm grabbing Carol. I'm going to pick the Panthers to win the game. And look, the Panthers got smoked by the Patriots last week, but I think this defense with Miami. It feels like a get right game for this offense. I think this is opportunities for Tedamore McMillan and Chuba Hubbard to have good games against the Dolphins defense that nearly lost to Justin Fields and the Jets and the undisciplined slop that is the Jets. So give me the Panthers 31-27 over the Miami Dolphins. The Indianapolis Colts are favored by 6.5 points. Yeah, 6.5 points at home against the Vegas Raiders. And yeah, I think the loss of Colton Miller for the Raiders, I think is a gigantic deal for this one. And look, give the Colts credit. They've been playing some inspiring football. They went toe to toe with the Rams for a good chunk of the game on Sunday in LA. I think this Sunday it's going to be one where the Colts go back to victory. I think huge game for Jonathan Taylor. I think a good day for Daniel Jones in the clubhouse. Give me the Colts to win 31-17 over the Raiders. Now this game was one of the two or three tough one of the four games I did not I needed another round to think about the circle. The New York Football Giants and the New Orleans Saints meeting up in New Orleans with the winless Saints favored by 1.5 points against the Giants. And look, I think you have to give the Saints some credit, yeah, despite being winless, because they've been competitive in 3 of the 4 games they've played against tough opponents like Arizona, San Francisco, and Buffalo before getting slaughtered in Seattle week 3. But I think this is going to be a game where the Giants are going to be able to win. Because remember, Jackson Dart should have been drafted by New Orleans with pick number 9, and they didn't. Um and so the Saints took the tackle from Texas instead. And it's going to be Jackson Dart against Spencer Rattler, and I think the Giants have the quarterback advantage in this game. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Both run defenses are shaky, so I think there's gonna be there's gonna be some offense in this game. But I think the Giants they yank one out of the end. They win 28-26 over the New Orleans Saints in the Big Easy on Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys are favored by 2.5 points on the road, taking on the Jets. And look, I'm gonna be. This kind of feels like a hot take, but I'm gonna pick the Jets to win this game. Now the lack of discipline has been beyond alarming for the Jets so far this season. But did you watch that Dallas defense getting carved up by Jordan Love on Sunday night? Yeah, the Cowboys have the worst defense in the NFL. They can't stop anybody. I think Justin Fields is going to run all over that Dallas defense. I think this is going to be an opportunity for Garrett Wilson to have a big game. I think this is it's going to be good for that. But then you have Dak Prescott, and I think the stat for Dak Prescott is that when he was under pressure on Sunday night, he went 9 of 10 for 134 yards and a touchdown, which I think is impressive here. But I just think this is good. I'm just gonna pick the team with a slightly better defense. I'm gonna pick the Jets to win a shootout, 30-27 over the Dallas Cowboys coming up on Sunday. Now, this is a tricky one. The Denver Broncos and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 3.5 points against the Broncos. And look, I already felt comfortable taking up grabbing the points with the Broncos because the Eagles' offense has been sloppy so far. But I think the Broncos defense I think is going to win them this game. And I know it's the Vic Fangio revenge game. The first time I a Vic Fangio revenge game because I'm thinking of that 70-point game the Dolphins had a couple of years ago where Fangio was the defensive coordinator there. But I'm smelling upset special. Give me the Broncos to win. I think Bo Nix is going to be able to get the job done, and I just think Philly is a little vulnerable right now. A head coach advantage in favor of the Broncos. You get and I think Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and the Broncos are gonna march to Philly and hand the Eagles their first loss of the season. Broncos 23, Eagles 20. Now on to the 4 o'clock games. The Arizona Cardinals favored by seven. I believe it's 7.5 points. 7.5 points at home, taking on the Titans. And look, I think the Titans. And yeah, I get Cam Ward, and I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but there are two issues. Number one, Brian Callahan's play calling has been dreadful. And two, the Titans have faced nothing but good defenses for the first 4 weeks of the season. So whether Denver, the Rams, the Colts, or the Texans, and Arizona is a little bit easier for them to score points on because they've had trouble closing out games. But I just think the Cardinals are going to find the way to make Jeffrey Simmons a non-factor in this game. 29-16, give me the Cardinals to win and cover. It's a huge line, but I think the Cardinals bounce back from the Thursday night loss last week to Seattle. And speaking of Seattle, they're 3.5 point favorites at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And look, I cannot wait for this game and see how it unfolds. But I'm gonna grab the points with Tampa. I feel like it's gonna be another one of those games that's gonna go back and forth and down to the wire. But I think Seattle it has some matchups in this game. I think Jackson Smith and Jibba is gonna go off. I think Sam Darnold is gonna find a way. Clint Kubiak is gonna do just enough in terms of calling running plays to get past a really good Bucks defense. So give me the Seahawks to win 30-27, but I've got the Bucks covering the spread. The Detroit Lions, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Lions are favored by 10.5 points. And look, I think this is an easy one. I think the Lions that they've been the best team in the NFC in my view when you look at it, when you look at it on the eye test. And Cincinnati, that the 2023 version of Jake Browning hasn't been even close to have shown up yet. Two dreadful games in a row for the Bengals. But so I think it's going to be another rough day in the clubhouse for them. I think it's going to be closer because of garbage time points at the end. But give me the Lions to win 38-20 over the Bengals. the Washington Commanders and taking on the LA Chargers. Chargers coming off their first loss of the season. They're favored by 2.5 points in this one. And I think you look at the Chargers. I think they're gonna bounce back after playing a sloppy game of football, but they only lost by 3 to the Giants. So that they showed they have a big margin of error, but it's not as big as the Chargers thought it was going to be. But I think when it comes to this for Washington, Washington is 2-0 at home. They're 0-2 on the road. And where is Washington this week? On the road. I'll take the Chargers to win and cover. They win 28-24 over the Commanders. This is a fun. This should be a fun game. Sunday Night Football on NBC. The Buffalo Bills. They'll be playing in all white uniforms. So they're gonna pay homage to the Penn State whiteout. Hoping they get a different result from that Penn State had last week in their whiteout game. The Bills are favored by 8.5 points, taking on the New England Patriots. Now, I think Buffalo did not play their best game, in my opinion, on Sunday because they failed to cover a 15.5 point spread. But don't get me wrong, I think Bills are going to win. But I feel like New England is going to cover the spread. That they played exceptionally well. I think they're finally going to get Travion Henderson more opportunities to run the football. So give me the Bills to win this game 26-19 over the Patriots. And then finally, Monday Night Football on ESPN and ABC. The Kansas City Chiefs favored by 3.5 points, taking down the Jaguars. We talked about the strengths the Jaguars have had this year, all across that team. But in the end, give me the team with the better head coach and the better quarterback. Give me Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to go on the road and hand the Jaguars their second loss of the season. Give me the Chiefs to win this game by a score of 24-20. So those are your picks for Week 5 in the NFL. Thank you so very much for listening to listening or watching to the podcast today. I'll be back here soon for another episode of Hooked on Sports. So until then, this is John Flynn saying so long. I'll be back here on the podcast soon. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.